The whole world has been amazed to see the fires that have been from coast to coast in Australia in around the Christmas period leading into 2020. It's been an amazing experience in Australia itself. From coast to coast we have had major fires, and it's completely unprecedented that these should all be happening at once, at the same time, and that they should be on such a huge scale. At the moment, when I'm talking, something like 10 million hectares have been burnt out. This is far larger than any other fire we've had in our history in Australia, and it indicates a degree of alarm and concern about the development of climate change in this country. It is not just a matter of how do we manage fires, how do we manage the country better. It is a matter there's been talk that arsonists have started many of these fires. They haven't. Perhaps 1% have been started by arsonists. It's not a matter of arsonists, fire, or lack of back burning. It's because that the climate has been warming so strongly, and Australia is in the grip of a prolonged drought, which is only now being broken in some parts of Australia, particularly Queensland. So this drought is very unprecedented because it is not connected with the normal variations of the El Nino, what they call the El Nino effect, which is normally associated with droughts in Australia. So this is outside the norm. And scientists are very concerned that we are entering a period of increasing warmth, and what we're seeing with the fires here, and not just the fires, but extreme weather events, extreme hail attacks on various cities, Melbourne and Sydney, trashing cars in the streets and houses, roofs, and floods, extreme floods in other parts, sudden floods without the gentle rain coming and causing further damage and disruption. All these are typical of what scientists have warned about the effects of climate change in this country. And it has sparked a whole new debate about is it fair to talk about a catastrophic effect of climate change? As Pope Francis did in his encyclical 2015, people have attacked Pope Francis saying, look, it's not a religious matter, it's a matter for science, how he shouldn't be talking like this. But Pope Francis has been speaking on the advice of the top climate scientists in the world, and one of them helped launch the document, Professor Schullenhuber from the Potsdam Institute of Climate Research. And what is happening in Australia? Again, the scientists are saying this is what we expect with climate change. Climate change is real, it is happening, and you can't understand the effect of droughts and extreme weather events unless you trace it back to the causes. So the government is saying, well, we've just got to deal with this, we won't worry about the climate change side, or reducing greenhouse gases, leave that conversation aside, but you can't leave it aside because that is the basic cause of it all. It is very distressing to be caught up in one of these fire events. I happen to be in one of the coastal cities or coastal towns of southern New South Wales, and we had to be evacuated. People were extremely distressed, frightened. They looked at what had happened at Malakuta, where you had a firestorm quite unprecedented in this country with its savagery and its suddenness, and people all up the coast were terrified that this could happen in their communities as well. And the smoke from these events has not only covered their areas, but the whole eastern seaboard. In fact, the cloud of smoke has gone right around the entire globe at a very high level. We can't see it from here, but it is there. So this is affecting the whole world. The amount of greenhouse gases released in these fires sets back all our efforts to reduce our carbon emissions in this country. Now, it's not a hopeless situation. Pope Francis talked about it as an imminent catastrophe bearing down on the world. The whole effects of climate change will affect rising sea levels. Can you imagine what would be like if we had lost the Greenland ice sheet? Sea level rise of 10, 15 feet. And if you have the release of the methane gases from the tundra in Siberia and other frozen continents, this will cause immense, what they call cascading catastrophes, or one tipping point after another, lead to even more severe effects. We can avert these catastrophes. We have people saying, look, there are ways forward. We can turn all this around gradually, but with great effort, to manage the climate change. How do we do this? Ross Garnaut has outlined in his recent book, Superpower, ways in which we can harness the sun with the expansion of solar power, with wind power, to provide the energy that can displace completely the coal industry and the fossil fuel industry, which are the cause of the major cause of our global emissions. We can reform agriculture by putting carbon back into the soil on a massive scale, which will not only take carbon out of the atmosphere, but enrich agriculture, enrich the ground, and enable it to hold more moisture as well. These and many other projects, he says, could turn Australia, for instance, into a superpower of energy. And these and many other instances, he points out, regenerative agriculture, for instance, cutting down on the amount of meat we eat, new process to reduce the emissions from cattle. All these things are possible that the scientists and the agricultural specialists are saying, we can do this, we know how to do this, but we need a policy framework in which to do it. And fortunately, I know that the scientists are backed up by the financial people saying, this is the way to go, this is how do we secure our future, this is how we avoid catastrophe. And this, as Pope Francis says, this is our moral duty. All of us are left with the question, well, what do we do immediately for people who have been affected by fires? Well, obviously, we can give some of the money, particularly to Vinnie's or one of the other organisations. The Redemptorists, certainly we're giving to Vinnie's, and many of you people are too, and many other organisations. There's also other things we can do. If we're in an area which has been affected by the fires, and it's not just the people who have lost houses or farms, but it's a whole range of other businesses that have lost out too. All the people who would normally go to these areas for holidays, they've cancelled, and all those businesses that are throughout the eastern seaboard and presumably in Western Australia as well, their businesses have suffered, and they need support. So where we spend our money, where we go for holidays, think about these things, how we can help. Also get informed about, pay attention to what is happening, and read and listen to the informed voices, not necessarily those who are shouting loudest at us, but the ones who know more about it.